All right, welcome to Be the Market Expert. And so, guys, here we are. We're December 16th. As we're looking at this thing, we're almost in 2026. And there's a couple articles that I think is interesting. So, the very first one, this is from the Denver Business Journal. And the Denver Business Journal, the outline of this thing says the housing market's next era has arrived. Here's what it means for prices. All right, so let's scroll through this thing. And here's the story highlights, which I super appreciate. So, 53% of US homes have lost value in the last year. This is the most since 2012. Southern and western cities saw steepest decline. Northeast remained stable. And then home prices projected to rise 4% in 2026 despite increased inventory. All right, cool. So there's three bullet points. Let's talk about this thing. First and foremost, what we understand is this: the news's job is to sell the news. All right, they're not a fiduciary for buyers, they're not a fiduciary for the sellers. Their only job is to get clicks and to keep their jobs so the newspapers keep paying them. That's the first bullet point. All right, so we look at this thing, we go through, it says western cities and southern cities steepest declines. Cool. So we're talking about California, we're talking about Colorado. You're going to see that here in a second. You're talking about Texas, we're talking about Florida, which would be southern. And when we think about this, these are the largest land masses in the United States, right? Those three have the most populous, the biggest land masses. And what we've seen is we've been looking at these cities over the last couple of months. And what we understand is these are all the cities with the biggest booms as well. So we saw that they had these big booms. They had lots of people. They were building houses. If they build it, they will come mentality. And we've had some affordability issues in the United States. And I think that we all understand this. And so they're saying these have had the steepest declines. And it says home prices are projected to rise 4%. Well, what we also know is since the 1990s, most homes have appreciated 4% year over year. All right, since the 1990s, we've seen this. If we were to look at the trend line, 4%. There's only been a very, very small piece in our recent history back when we had the housing crash during the recession. Like that was the only time that we really saw negative home prices as a whole. So let's look at this. So we go through and we look at it. It says the cities with the highest percentage of homes that have lost value. And here you guys are. Number one, they're saying 91%, let's round up, 91% of all homes in Denver have lost value. All right, let's do this. Where are they getting this information? They're saying this is data from Zillow. All right, so they're saying this is data from Zillow. And it says a growing divide between housing markets. So it's in different housing markets are doing different things, and we understand this. Showing that 53% of homes have lost value in the past year. Okay, cool. What they're doing now is that we know what their baseline is. They're doing it year over year data. All right. So in theory, this is probably November to November, because remember that December is not over. We do rear view facing data. And so this trend line would most likely be November to November is what they're basing this information off of. All right. So November to November, they're stating these are the top 10 with the highest percentage of homes that have lost value. Denver, 91% of all homes, then Texas, then Austin, Sacramento, Phoenix, Dallas, San Antonio, Tampa, Orlando, San Francisco, Jacksonville, Florida. Okay, cool. We're seeing Texas on the board. We're seeing California on the board. We're seeing Florida on the board, and we're seeing some Arizona and us. All right, cool. Nothing looks weird about that. California should be on the list. Texas should be on the list. Florida should be on the list with everything. These guys should always be on the list. And this is what we also know. We also know that when we're looking at this thing, what we typically see is we see the West Coast and the East Coast are always the trend starters, and then it makes its way inward. All right. So historically speaking, if there is an issue, we see it start in California, we see it start in Florida, and it makes its way to us. So again, none of this is super surprising. But this is where it starts to get a little bit weird. And I'm like, all right, you guys are truly over here going through some clickbait, right? So when we go in here and we look at it and it says, on a regional basis, cities in the Northeast and Midwest posted lower percentage. Okay, saw just 12% of its homes lost value over the last year. And then we go a little bit further down, and it says regional distinctions exist on this front as well. In San Francisco, 14.4% of all homes on the market are priced below their last sales price. Okay, well, I feel like they've gone through and they've changed the metric a little bit. All right. Now they're saying that they're calling out San Francisco, and 14% of all homes have lost value compared to what they sold for last. All right. So then we're looking at it. And so are we talking about year over year data, or are we talking about the last sale? Then it goes through. It says in Austin, Texas, that number is about 12.6%. All right. So then we're going through and we're looking at more of their details. Then it goes here and it says, according to Zillow's research, homes in Austin, Texas have seen the biggest decline in average value from their peak. That's another metric again. So now we're on a third metric to where they're saying that we're talking about their peak value. Guys, when was their peak values? 2021. 2021 was everyone's peak value across the board. Maybe we saw a little bit in 2022 in the beginning. But so now we have this news article that's looking over year data, talking about how we're seeing negative home prices. The largest 91% of all homes in Denver have this. But then they're switching up the article and they're saying, according to Zillow's research, Austin has seen the biggest decline since its peak. Guys, this is clickbait, and this is what's unfortunate. And this is why we have to be educated. As we're going through and we're having conversations with our consumers, and this is the Denver Business Journal, and they are cherry picking different headlines to throw in to make an article to get clicks to throw people into a tailspin. And we understand this. We understand that home values have gone down in areas versus their peak in 2021. We understand this. 2021 interest rates were so low, money was basically free. 2022, what did we see? We saw 2022 interest rates started low and then they went up with such high velocity that scared a lot of people, that spooked a lot of people, and people pumped the brakes. All right. It wasn't that the interest rates were super high, it's just that they went up very, very quickly in the second to fourth quarter of 2022. 23 through 25, they stayed pretty elevated. We're seeing a little bit of flatlining in 2025. And in 2025, what we're seeing is people are starting to breathe again. They're like, oh my goodness, this isn't awesome that we're at 6% interest rates, but I can wrap my head around it. So, guys, when we're at the dining room tables over this holiday season, this could be an article that you could be having a conversation with. And as we're looking at this thing, this is the conversation that we need to be having. Firstly, it's about the motivations of our people, our buyers, our sellers, our investors. Like, why are we interested in the real estate market? That is our baseline that we need to be having conversations with people. And then figure out, are they looking to buy? Are they looking to sell? Are they looking to invest? Or they just want to have a conversation? Because this is a conversation that we can absolutely have. This is clickbait. So then we go through and we look at it a little bit further, right? So then it's saying that's followed by New Orleans, who's down 16%, then San Francisco, who's down 15%, then down Pittsburgh, 13%. Nationally, the average has declined about 10% from its peak. So we're down 10% from its peak. And I think that we've seen this, and this should not come to a surprise by anyone. But here's the deal, and this is what we have to keep in mind. I think I've told you guys this on a previous call. I was having a conversation with my dad. And there was a news article very, very similar to this. I don't remember if it was like this time last year or closer to Q1. And the conversation was, I was reading an article, or there was a news segment that said that we're losing money on our houses. And I said, Dad, you bought your home in 1999 for $300,000. You have not lost value in your home. Yes, there could be a decline again from its peak. And what we're seeing is this: the people that are losing money are the people that sell their home for less than what they bought it for. And if any of you guys just said duh in your head, that's the conversation. You only lose money if you sell for less than what you bought it for. Full stop. That's the conversation. If you bought your home in the 1990s, there is no world where you have lost money unless you have refinanced, and you have pulled all the equity out. All right. If you have bought your home in the peak of 2022 or anywhere in 2025 and you go to sell it today, yes, you're probably going to lose money. And so who's that going to affect? Well, that's going to affect the people that lost their job. If you lost your job and you need to sell your house, then absolutely yes. If you're getting transferred and you're going to have to sell your home for a loss, yeah, it's going to affect you. But the people that have job stability, that are not looking to move, they are not losing money. And that is the conversation that we need to be able to have with people. So, guys, this is what's super unfortunate. We're looking at an article like this from the Denver Business Journal, a reputable news source, if there is such a thing. All right. So this is the Denver Business Journal. This is a big deal. It's going through, it's calling out it's calling out these story highlights. Then it's going through and it's telling us that 91% of all homes in Denver have lost value. And then it's changed its metric three different ways on how it's pulling data. And nowhere again is it going through and calling out Denver. Nowhere. Nowhere does it say that we are one of the largest ones to lose value from our peak. Nowhere does it go through and it says that we have lost the most amount of money year over year. It just says that 91% of all homes have lost value this year. It doesn't say even what the dollar amount is. This could be $1. Now, it's probably more than $1, but it has no other metrics associated with this. And so what's important is this. Someone has a conversation with you. We need to pull up the stats like we did yesterday on Coffee Talk, where we go into the MLS and we go to InfoSparks and we say, hey, these are the prices that we're seeing year over year. These are the prices that we are seeing, the MLS versus this county, the MLS versus this city, days on market, average sales price, list price to sales price. Like these are the conversations that we need to have. And guess what? If they're a seller, then we get super specific and granular into their home. Do not let the news sources dictate the conversations that you are having. Let them open the door. You walk through the door, you present facts, figure out motivations, and you tell the story. But let's switch it over. This is interesting. And guys, this is probably all over. I don't care. You could Google this right now, and it is going to be on CNN, Fox News. This is going to be everywhere. This is not just going to be on real estate news. Google enters portal wars with MLS listings in select cities. We are one of those cities. Denver, Chicago, and Austin are three of them. And we understand, again, these are three major players in real estate. Guys, this is why we make these lists. Is Denver is a desirable area where people want to live. The Denver Metro. I don't know about Denver specific, but let's go to Denver Metro, which would be Arvada too. And so when we go through and we look at this is the conversation. Google, the largest search portal engine in the world, bigger than Yahoo, bigger than Bing, bigger than Safari, bigger than DuckDuckGo, insert whatever information here. They're going through and they're saying, hey, we want to start having our own listings popping up in our own portal. So they're not saying that, hey, they're going to pop up with Zillow listings or Realtor.com or Redfin or insert whatever here. They're saying, no, we've partnered with a company. Who they've partnered with? They've partnered with this company called Come Home. All right. And it's a paid partnership. And if anyone has been around for a while, this should sound a whole lot like Zillow all over again. All right. So what's happening is the largest search platform in the world has said, we want to be in the real estate space. And so now they're in the real estate space. And what they've done is they partnered with this company. Well, why have they had to do this? Because they need access to the MLS. To be able to push information to your own site, you need IDX. Well, that means that you have to go through and you actually have to have some kind of plug-in to the MLS. And this is what Zillow did back in the day. Back in the day, you would go into Jim's office and Jim would have this folder, this binder with all of the listings in the area. And you would have to go knock on the door, or however you got into this place, and you would go talk to Jim, and Jim would open up this book And he would go through and he would say, all right, what area are you interested in? And he'd be like, so I got some great houses to show you. And he'd show you houses. Then we advanced a little bit and it went online and it was strictly on the MLS. And the real estate agents are the only ones with the keys. It wasn't on a book anymore, but you needed something. You would call Jim and Jim would send you the listings. You no longer had to go into Jim's office and look through the book. It was all online. Data was moving quicker. Well, then the Zillow CEO pops up, and the Zillow CEO says, hey, real estate agents, I have a huge proposition for you. I would like to go through and I would like to advertise all your listings to give you more sales. And the real estate agents were like, that sounds awesome. You would do that for us? And Zillow's like, yes, I love real estate agents. I would love to do that for you. Now, fast forward to today, what does that look like? Zillow now is the largest aggregator of real estate information. They take our data that we put in the MLS. You guys do the work. You guys go get the listing. You sign the agreements. You go to real estate school. You do all this stuff. You put it on the MLS. And then what does the MLS do? They send it over to Zillow. Then Zillow sends it out to its database. Someone clicks a button. And what do? They sell the information back to the real estate agent, not the listing agent. They sell it to whoever's the highest bidder. So whoever the highest bidder is now getting the information. And that's what Zillow's business model. Well, Google's saying, well, we like money. And so what have they done? They've gone through and they've paid this company, Come Home, to be able to syndicate data from Come Home to their platform. We don't know what this looks like, but it's starting to look a whole lot like Zillow. So now what happens? Well, Zillow has a huge platform. This could dig into their platform a little bit, but who else could get majorly hit by this? CoStar, right? We've seen the CoStar guys. We're almost a Super Bowl season, right? We're like 2 months away, and we're going to see the CoStar Zillow battle commercials back and forth of who's the best platform in the world. CoStar is their big platform is homes.com, apartments.com, it's all these different things. So they could be seeing some dings in those different ones, but Zillow is more of just the one-stop shop. Well, when we go through and we look at this, we could also see like realtor.com, which again is part of some different pieces. We could see Redfin take a hit as well. So all these people driving traffic could see this hit. And no crystal ball, but if I did, I would say that they are trying to be the next Zillow and they will try to monetize something. But to be able to monetize a lot of these things, these are the platforms that they need. We'll see what this looks like. We have no clue how big this is or how small this is going to be, but I think that we should be looking at it because they are going to be directly competing against Zillow, Redfin, CoStar when they get this thing up and going, and they're going to test it again in markets like Chicago, Austin, just to see what kind of traffic they can get. But again, you Google 123 Main Street, that is going to pull the listings. And so I haven't played with this yet. They're saying that it's on mobile first. And so kind of go through, look up some Denver properties and kind of see what it looks like and start getting a feel for it.
Hey,
Bill,
just
switch. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Jeff.
quick question. Hey, what's going on with the Compass acquisition? Speaking of big players in the market,
Yeah, so that's very real and looks like it's going to go through, right? So we're going to go through and we're going to see Compass acquire anywhere. And so Compass goes through and acquire anywhere. And what we believe is we believe that this is to enforce some policy changes that they want. Remember, Compass is at war with Zillow. Compass is at war with NAR. Compass is at war with anyone that does not agree that it's their sandbox and they should be able to create their own rules that they want to create. And here's the deal. Like, I'm not anti their vision of what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, hey, it's the real estate agent stuff. They're putting in the effort, they're putting in the work. Let them dictate what they want to do with it. And they got these third parties that are saying, no, we're not going to let you do this. So then what did Zillow do or what Compass do? Well, Compass is backed by SoftBank. And so SoftBank, remember, is the big player that was a part of WeWork, and they got endless pockets, deep, deep pockets. And so what they do? They said, hey, you know what? We're on this mission to not only gain more market share, but be able to enforce some policy, which we actually believe will bring more money into our business, not real estate agent business, but into the brokerage business. And so they went out, they went to their bank, and their bank gave them money, and they went through and they're acquiring Anywhere. And Anywhere's in the hole. All right. Anywhere has a lot of debt right now. And so they're getting bought out. They're getting saved by Compass doing this. And so, guys, this is Coldwell Banker. This is ERA. This is Better Homes and Gardens. This is insert a lot of stuff here. This is a lot of brands. Century 21. There's a lot of stuff. And so effectively what this is going to do is it's going to put them to the number one brokerage by agent count overnight. They're going to sunset us. All right. They're going to eclipse us, not sunset us. We're not going to get sunset. We're going to get eclipsed though. And so we have 180,000 real estate agents as far as Keller Williams goes. They're going to go somewhere around 300,000. Now, this is where it gets interesting. You guys are one of three brokerages in the world that owns its own tech. Every other company is using third-party tools, which is dangerous. Us, Redfin, and Compass, we're the only three brokerages that uses its own tech. So one of the policies that we think that they're looking to enforce is they're saying, well, hey, MLS, if you are going to penalize us and dictate how we have to enter listings, and Zillow also says that if we do not enter listings in the MLS and we do other things, that they're going to penalize us as well. We just won't use the MLS anymore and we'll keep it all on our own websites. And they can do that. Why? Because they use their own tech. They don't have to go to a third party and manipulate the tech. They just put it in their system. It says, you have to go to compass.com to look at our listings. Well, guess what, guys? We have that capability right now. Elizabeth has a button on her side of things that she pushes, and it could say, only send our listings on kw.com. Do not send it anywhere else. So what does this do? There's a lot of smart people out there that are brokerage leaders that believes that there will only be 4 brokerages left standing here at the very end. Compass is positioning themselves to be one. We are positioned to be one. We don't know who the other 2 are. And what that looks like is all the listings will live vertically in our web platform. You go to kw.com for KW listings, you go to compass.com for Compass listings, the MLS disappears, Zillow probably disappears. And then what you're doing is you're positioned with brokerages that have listings. And that's where the consumers come to then, which is not bad for you guys. You guys are all in a perfect position to win. You guys are with right now the largest brokerage. We will be one of the largest brokerages when this thing comes to fruition, but it's looking like it's going to go through. One of the things that they have to do to make sure they get past antitrust laws is that they have to get rid of some agents. And so what we'll see is they're going to go probably state specific, and they're going to get rid of agents that aren't performing. And they're going to get rid of maybe some brands that aren't performing, and they're going to cut weight, and then those brands are going to have to figure out what they want to do. So it's going to get weird. We don't know how it's going to shake out, but it looks like it's going to go through. All right. 6 housing market trends to watch for. Let's just go through it real quick. Existing home sales will pick up barely. Guys, we think that we're going to see this. Absolutely. What we're going to see is we're going to see people get more and more comfortable with interest rates being where they are. They don't like them, but they're comfortable with them, and they're going to move forward. They're going to say home prices will be roughly flat. Yeah, we believe that, right? We're seeing this, and what we're going to go through, we're going to see, yes, some places go up, some places go down, but they're going to say across the board, probably flat. Inventory will climb to pre-pandemic levels. Hallelujah. Let's see this, guys. Pre-2019, we want 2019 inventory, 2019 inventory. That's when we consider a healthy market. We have not been in a healthy market in a very long time. There has not been enough inventory. And with more inventory, that's why they're predicting home prices stay flat, because there's more competition. This says home ownership rate will decline. This one's interesting, right? They're saying at today's prices, interest rates, home ownership remains out of reach for many middle class Americans. Yes, we'll look at this here in a minute. Let's just bookmark it. We will avoid a recession. Yeah, guys, here's why we're going to avoid a recession, because the Fed has continuously started to cut rates. And while we're not directly impacted by those as far as mortgage rates goes, we have to keep in mind that what also does those Fed rates do? They also allow businesses to expand. So businesses will be able to pay people more if they choose to. They'll be able to expand their businesses, which means they'll be able to get more jobs to people, right? So this is a good thing. What this also means is inflation is going to go up. So, guys, this is the unfortunate pendulum that we're on. We can either control inflation or we can control the cost of money to be able to expand. And so what happens is and it's around employment. All right. So when we're talking about employment or inflation, if we control inflation, that means that we're making the cost of money expensive. So what they do is they're able to lower inflation because no one's spending money because the cost of money is so high. But then what happens? Well, businesses can't expand, and we only have two different real levers that we can pull to be able to cut costs and make more money. Because remember, we're in a capitalist society across the board. And so we have rent and leases, but those have contracts. So you can't get rid of rent and leases. So what do you have to do? You have to go over after employment. So what do? They start firing people. So then inflation's going down, but people are losing their jobs. No good. So what do? So then they cut rates. And then we start seeing jobs start going up. People have money. Well, what do people do with money? They spend it. They buy houses, they buy cars, they buy businesses, they expand their businesses. So now they're going onto Amazon and they're doing Black Friday deals, right? So they're spending money. Well, what happens? Inflation starts going up. So that's where we are. We have this Fed dual mandate, which is super awful, and we have to pick which one. We can't go after both. It's impossible. And it says mortgage rates will decline slightly. Yes, we think we're going to see this new Fed chair president coming in May. Um, and so with that, with the new Fed chair president, they are appointed by the US president. The US president says that they want lower rates. What we do know about this president is that they do not elect anyone or put anyone by appointment that does not push their agenda. What's the president's agenda? The president's agenda is they want lower rates for the housing economy. And so what we'll see is we will see them appoint someone. It has to go through Senate approval. Senate approves them, which they've approved all of them. Some of them have been painful, but they've approved all of them. And they go through, they get approved, and we don't know how long it will take, but we do believe we are going to see rate cuts that are directly going to impact your business. All right, let's fast forward a little bit. Let's go through and let's talk about the housing affordability will improve. So this is what I was talking about. So it says a turning point. By mid 2022, housing affordability reached its most challenging level in 40 years. This is what we were talking about on the last slide that we bookmarked. It says this recent years, 42% of median household income went to housing expenses. Guys, $42 of every $100 went to housing. All right. That left $48 to go towards car payments, health insurance, food, Netflix, right? Like whatever that may look like. And so this is an issue. We have an affordability issue in the United States. So let's look at this. And guys, I do want to call it, this is Compass Data, but the only reason why it's Compass Data is because the owner of Altos Data is an economist for Compass. That's why it's branded to Compass, but this is really Altos Data at the end of the day. So it says home prices change forecast. This is what they're predicting. They're saying the very high that we could see is 4.6%. Compass, which is Altos data, they're saying we're probably going to remain flat somewhere about 0.5%, which lines up with what RIS Media just said. They're saying the low range is we could go backwards. Now, again, they're not predicting backwards, they're thinking flat. We go through and we talk about affordability improves. So they're going through, we're looking at this thing. We're going to see a little bit more of the affordability index start to change. So the price to income ratio. So they're thinking that more people are going to have money, more people are going to be able to get pay raises as we go through. And as they're getting pay raises, home prices are not going up because we think they're going to stay flat. So the affordability improves. That's what this is pointing to. People are getting paid more, home prices are not going up. So the ratio gets tighter. We look through a little bit further and it says the new era takes shape. Our base case, affordability improves gradually through flat prices and rising incomes. American homeowners still have equity. And guys, that's the biggest reason why we're not going to see 2008. Guys, watch The Big Short over this holiday weekend. The Big Short shows that people were going through, they were going to the bank, they were getting a mortgage. The bank said, hey, would you like another mortgage? They said, yeah, I would love another mortgage to go buy another house. And they would just hand them out. The only test was this. Can you fog a mirror? They handed them a mirror. They fogged the mirror. They gave them money. The rise of zombie foreclosures happened. This is why we will not see what happened in 2008 ever again. Yes, we will see some people go into foreclosures. Yet we are not going to see people go into foreclosures like we did back then because of this equity position. Someone would have to go out kicking and screaming and throw away all of that money and just let the things stack up. They are going to walk away from money, especially in Colorado. What happens is this: they find themselves in a foreclosure or most likely a short sale scenario where they didn't pay the bank's going to kick them out. They have equity in their home. They take that equity and what do they do with it? Well, they can't afford Colorado, but they go to the Midwest. They go to Arkansas, right? They go to Kentucky. They go to one of these areas where the cost of living is significantly cheaper and they just take that money and transfer it. That's what most likely would happen because we have huge equity positions in a lot of these households, unless you bought in the height of 2021 through 2025. Then it's a different ball game. But let's look up to see what Logan Motoshami has to say. The lead analyst for Housing Wire, his headline says weekly housing demand reaches multi-year high. Guys, we're in December. Real estate agents were supposed to pack it in October and not come back to play for another couple months. Housing demand is at a 4-year high with steady mortgage rates and improved purchase application data. Inventory growth has dropped 33% to 13% as the market heads into 2026. And we saw this. We talked about it yesterday. We're seeing people's listings expire and they're going into the holiday season. They're saying, listen, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's, kids are on vacation, families coming in. Let's cool it for a little bit. Let's wait till after the holidays. Very real. It says as mortgage rates stay near 6%, our weekly housing demand data has improved. It says things have changed so much that inventory growth that we saw earlier in this year, which was running 33% down to 14%. Well, what does that do? That's what flatlines prices because now there's less inventory. The buyers, remember where the buyers are doing this year. Their psyche said, more and more inventory is coming on the board. I don't need to write an offer on this house right now. We're going to see something better tomorrow. Well, now there's less inventory. There's less inventory, which means they have less options. And now you have less picky buyers, which also means that our sellers are not having to drop their home prices as much because there's less competition. I'm the only one in the neighborhood. I don't have more competition. So we go through here. Let's look at purchase application data. Guys, look at this. Look at 2025 versus 2024. Yes, week over week, you saw a little bit of a decline, but we don't care about that. Look at 2025 versus 2024. People are raising their hands to figure out what they qualify for. Yes, some of this information is refinancing. Some people are dropping down to lower rates. But what we're also seeing is people saying, you know what, 6%, not super awesome, but yet I'm going to buy a house. And they're going through and they're figuring out what the lender and what they qualify for. Guys, this is the reason to stay in relationship, deep, deep relationship. People are gearing up to buy houses over the next 3 months. This is what this data tells me. Look at this. Guys, we had this peak right here in December when people fall asleep and we have seasonality and no one's buying houses, right? We've all heard it. And yet we had more people go talk to a lender to figure out what they qualify for. Then we go through total pending home sales. Guys, we're in here, yes, seasonality, but we're still higher year over year versus 24, versus 23, versus 2022. We're not dipping below. We're still staying over. This is good. This is meaning that people are still moving. We're not going to talk about 10-year yield. We're not going to talk about mortgage spreads, but let's talk about housing inventory data. Nationwide, guys, look at this. We are closing the gap between 2025 and 2019. Remember, we base everything off of 2019. 2019 was a normal market. Global pandemic happened in 2020. It broke a lot of stuff. We have more people living in the United States today than we did in 2019. There is not enough inventory. This is what's kept prices elevated over the years. More people, not enough building. Guys, we will never, ever, ever build enough homes to be able to outbuild the housing crisis that we have. This is what is going to keep homes elevated. Why? Because in 2006, 2008, the builders got caught holding the bag. If we build it, they will come. Then the crash happened. They couldn't sell houses and they slowed down. And we can look at that graph a little bit later. So we look at this. This is very, very good, guys. We need more inventory, stable home prices, more buyers start to buy houses. We go through here, we look at new listing data. So here we are, guys, like we're looking at this thing. We're a little bit less than what we were in 2024. But I think, again, seasonality, we're looking at this. We're just seeing people say, hey, I want to put it on pause. We're seeing seller fatigue. And so what I do believe is you're going to see many houses come back online January 1st. What you're also going to see, you're going to see a lot of houses go offline. So if your strategy for 2026 is to cold call, January 1st is the day to jump on this thing. You're going to see lots and lots of contracts expire December 31st of 2025. And it's going to be flooded on January 1 with a bunch of expired listings. Price cut percentages. Guys, here we are, 40%. 40% of all homes are taking a price cut. We're probably going to see less of this happening over the next couple of weeks as less inventory is on the board. All right. So especially where we are right now, you're going to see fresh listings holding out. And so this number is going to come down. What we would have seen in years past is 1/3 of all homes. Historically speaking, 1/3 of all homes nationwide take a price cut every year. We're sitting about 40%. Why? I put my home on the market. Another home comes on the market cheaper than me. Well, I only got two options. I can improve my home to make it better, or I can drop the home price. That's my only two options. Most people are not going to invest in a new kitchen, a new bathroom to make my home look better than this one. The easiest is to price cut 40% of all homes. So it says, what are we looking forward to this week? Because remember, this is Friday. It says we got a lot of data coming out, including builders' confidence. It did come out. It is slightly better. That was, I think, yesterday. Retail sales, bond auctions, jobless claims. Guys, this is what influences a lot of stuff, but we already saw our last rate cut. So what we hope for, because we're Americans, is we want this jobless claim data to be low. We don't want people losing their jobs. But here's the thing, guys, recession's not bad for real estate agents. Now we're on this call and I want you to be the most educated real estate agents in at least the state of Colorado. And so when we're going through and we're doing this, what I want you guys to understand is this. Recessions are actually good for real estate. They're bad for the American people, so we're never going to cheer on a recession ever. But what happens is, as people are losing their jobs, the Fed has to pivot. They have to lower rates to stimulate the economy. Well, what happens when rates get lower? Well, rates get lower, people go buy houses. And that's just what happens. And so we don't want to cheer for people to lose their homes. That's super anti-American. We're not going to do that. We want everyone to be employed. We want people to have good, healthy, robust lives. But yet, when we do see this thing, guys, jobless claims, recessions, this data, when it gets worse, it's actually better for real estate because people go buy homes. So we're going to look through this. And again, even if there is a high jobless claim number, we don't anticipate that the Fed's going to do anything to lower more rates. But speaking of rates, let's go look at it. This is just 3 months worth of time. Let's look at one to start, though. Here's your 1 more month look at time. And guys, this is pretty healthy. This is pretty flat, generally speaking. And this is what's important. We want flat data lines. Flat data lines gives your buyers and sellers confidence. Remember, most sellers become buyers. So if I'm going to sell my home, I want to know that in this market, when it's taken anywhere from 30 to 90 days to sell my house, that if I were to list it today, I can't lock in a rate until I identify my home. Well, I'm not going to identify a home yet until I get closer to under contract. But if the rates are fluctuating, I'm uneased and I might not put my home on the market because I don't want to be put in a situation where I find myself having to go and be locked in at 8% or a 7%, right? So we're going through and we're looking at this data. This is what we want to see, fairly flat lines. Now, if we look at it, this is what I'm talking about. Let's look at 2 years. Oops. Let's just look at 2 years. Guys, this is the roller coaster that we don't want to see. And the reason why is now you have buyers trying to time the market. You have buyers saying, well, I'm just going to wait for the next valley. right? I want to wait till the bottom falls out and then I'm going to go and start looking at houses. And they're waiting the time. And we all understand as real estate professionals, it's impossible to do this. There is nothing in this 2 years worth of data for me to say, oh, yeah, that was a big event. That's why this happened. And in 3 months' time, we think it's going to happen again. That's not real. And so when we see these peaks and valleys, buyers start to time the market and it gives sellers unease. And then we get this weird third world situation that we're looking at. So as we're going through and we're doing this, guys, this is what's important. We like this. And so as we're going in, we anticipate that it's going to slowly come down because what happens? The Fed lowers their rates. Who are they lending to? The bank. Then the bank lends to us. Why doesn't the bank drop rates as soon as the Fed drops rates to them? Because they would have a surge in refinances. And keep in mind, the bank is a for-profit company. And so if they have a surge in refinances, they lose money. If someone is at a 6.5% and then the bank drops down to 5, that person very well could refinance. And then if they don't hold on to their to that mortgage long enough, the bank loses money. And that's why we don't see a direct correlation in real estate. So as you're seeing this go down and you're having the conversations with your people over this holiday time, that's the reason why we do not see the Fed dropping rates and interest rates to come down automatically overnight.